We would like to thank our generous underwriters, Shape Your Future, a program of the Tobacco Settlement Endowment Trust.
Today we're making spaghetti with a veggie-loaded sauce, and joining me in the kitchen today is Julie Bisbee, Executive Director of TSET. Julie, thank you for joining me in the kitchen today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so today we're going to make our spaghetti with veggie-loaded sauce, and our veggies that we're going to load the sauce with, we're using one chopped up zucchini.
Okay.
And then we're using 1 carrot, an onion, and 4 ounces of chopped mushroom.
Excellent.
And then over here we've got some chopped spinach. So we've got a lot of vegetables that we're going to be adding. And one of the great things that I like about this recipe is that our vegetables are chopped fine, or smaller pieces,
Yes.
so that it makes it a little bit easier to hide in your sauce. So if you have picky eaters, they can kind of blend or camouflage in that sauce a little bit better.
Adding in extra servings without anyone knowing. Yes, that's excellent.
Now, to start this recipe, we need to heat 1 tablespoon of olive oil into our pan. Okay, and then our pasta that we're using for this recipe, we're using 12 ounces of a whole wheat pasta.
Okay.
And now any pasta, any shape of pasta would be fine for this. I do recommend, though, a whole wheat pasta because that does give it a little bit more fiber. It makes it a little bit healthier.
Absolutely.
And for the pasta, we're just going to cook that according to the package directions.
Okay, great.
So now that our oil is heated, if you would mind handing me the carrots,
Okay.
and I'll go ahead and get those added to the pan.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, and now the onions. Thank you.
And you're sauteing them so that they're tender, crisp, or?
Yeah, we want them to be tender. They're going to be mixed in with the sauce, and we want them to be nice and tender, but not too mushy.
Okay.
Okay, and then if you wouldn't mind getting the spatula and just kind of coat those around in the oil.
Okay.
But we do need to add about a half of a teaspoon of salt to the
Okay.
vegetables. We want the vegetables to cook about 7 to 8 minutes.
Okay.
In a separate skillet, I'm going to go ahead and add 1 pound of ground turkey. And now you could use like ground beef or ground pork. You could use another meat. But I do think that ground turkey works well for this recipe.
You're adding a lot of extra flavor too with the vegetables, the onions. Looks like you've got some fresh basil.
Yeah, makes it really flavorful. And then we're adding a half of a teaspoon of ground pepper. And about a half a teaspoon of salt.
Great.
And then as the turkey cooks, I'm just going to use use a spatula to kind of break it. We want it to be crumbly.
Right.
Okay, now that our vegetables have cooked about 7 to 8 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and add the garlic. If you wouldn't mind stirring it.
Yep.
Well, now our ground turkey, it looks like it's done. It's no longer pink, but I'm going to go ahead and check the temperature just to make sure. And for the ground meat like this, the crumbles, we just want to put the thermometer down the center without touching the bottom of the pan, just to make sure that it's at least 165 degrees. And that is. So I'm going to go ahead now and we'll transfer the turkey to our vegetables.
Okay.
Now at this point, if you were using something like a ground beef or a sausage, you'd want, to drain the fat off at this point. But our turkey is really lean.
Very lean.
So there's not really anything to drain off of that. So yeah, if you give it a stir there.
It's very colorful.
Yeah. Okay, now we need to add the marinara sauce.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, and then we'll add the 1 teaspoon of oregano. Thank you. Okay, and then we'll give that one good stir around.
So this recipe and many others can be found on shapeyourfutureok.com. And Shape Your Future is a program of the Tobacco Settlement Endowment Trust that's really helping to provide resources to family for healthy eating, ways to be active, ways to sneak vegetables in. Maybe you have a picky eater, things like that, so that we are helping Oklahomans live healthier lives.
Yeah, and this recipe is a great one to try, especially if you have picky eaters. I like the idea of adding the different vegetables. And the vegetables we use, you can use other vegetables too. Like, I think like red bell peppers would be a great option to add. Yeah, just depending, I guess, what you have available. But now we'll go ahead and add 2 cups of chopped spinach to our sauce.
Okay. And you're adding the spinach towards the end when you did the other vegetables. Why is that?
We just want the spinach and the basil to cook until they're wilted. If we were to add them earlier, they would get really soggy, like overcooked.
Okay.
And a lot of times with vegetables that when people don't like their vegetables, it's because they've cooked them too long and they're overcooked. So now we're going to drain our pasta. When we're going to drain it over another pan. That way we can reserve the pasta water. That way if our sauce ends up being a little too thick, we can thin it out with our reserved pasta water. And now that our pasta is drained, we can go ahead and plate it. And now for this, we can either add the pasta, like layer it, and add the sauce on top, or if you wanted to, you could mix it all together and then plate it. We're gonna go ahead and just add it, the pasta and then the sauce on top.
Okay. Lots of vegetables.
Lots of vegetables, really pretty. And I'm just gonna go ahead and add a little bit of Parmesan cheese on top and a sprig of parsley, and there's our dish. It is our spaghetti with veggie-loaded sauce.
Excellent.
Thank you again, Julie, for joining me in the kitchen today.
Thank you for having me.
For more information about Shape Your Future, visit their website or scan this QR code. We hope you enjoyed this video as part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on the OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.